Okay, I'm going to go ahead and go over lección uno, Hola, ¿qué tal? Which is páginas 2 a 5 en el libro. So a lot of this is just greeting vocabulary. So I am going to first just go, I'm going to skip all this. We're going to come back to it. I am going to go through the dialogues first and kind of, so I'm just going to try to go through these dialogues, and I think I have better, there they are. I wrote them out again. So the first was the picture from the text, and here I wrote them out again. I am just going to read through the dialogues and kind of point out the vocabulary in the dialogue, because with greetings vocabulary, it's probably the best way to do it. So you have Elena, Patricia, y Señor Perales. So this is Elena right here, and this is Patricia, and this is Señor Perales. So Elena says, Patricia, le presento a Jorge Perales. So she says, see if I can't. She says, le presento. So what do you think she's doing? What do you think she's doing right there? Well, why didn't that work? Oh. There we go. Okay, so she says, le presento a Jorge. Patricia le presento a Jorge. So she's standing behind them. She's introducing them. So when she says, le presento, she's saying, I'm presenting him, Jorge Perales, to you. Okay? And then Patricia, because she's polite, she says encantada. Encantada would be like, I mean, after you are introduced to someone, the polite thing to do is say, you know, nice to meet you, charmed. So she says encantada, which is, I like to think of it as charmed, or it's just like another way to say nice to meet you. Okay. And then Señor Perales says, igualmente. After someone greets you, after you're presented with someone and you say, nice to meet you, the other person's response can be igualmente, which just means likewise. Like, I'm also happy to meet you. Then Señor Perales says, ¿de dónde es usted, señorita? And she says, soy de Mexico. If she's saying soy de Mexico, like even if you didn't know what soy de means, you know Mexico is a place. So what she's asking of him, I'm sorry, what he's asking of her is where she is from. And so what it literally is, this is where, so this is from where are you? Okay, so usted is you. So when she says soy de Mexico, she is saying I am, she didn't put the I right there, but the spelling of soy right here, in Spanish, they change the spellings of the verbs, and the different spellings indicate who it is that is, you know, running, talking, is happy, sad, from Mexico, etc. So this particular spelling goes with I, and we'll talk about that as we get further into this semester. But she's saying, soy de Mexico. She's saying, I am from Mexico. Then she says, y usted. E means and we already said usted means you. So instead of repeating the question, she's just say she can shorten it and get him to tell where he's from by saying and you. And he said de Puerto Rico. Now, I'm going to go back to this slide. This slide tells you in Spanish, people can be addressed either formally or informally. And it tells you that certain dialogues are formal and certain ones were informal. This is a formal scenario because this man is older. So there are more than one you in Spanish. This is one of them, and this is the formal you. So I don't know if we want to make note. Maybe I can put it down here. Usted, whoops, I spelled it wrong. Usted, which can be abbreviated as UD. That is the formal you singular, because she's talking just to one person. There's a difference if you're talking to multiple people, okay? So then let's move on to the next dialogue, which is between Alberto and Tomás. And here I have it written out again. Tomás says, ¿Qué tal, Alberto? And Alberto says, regular. ¿Y tú? And Tomás says, bien. ¿Qué hay de nuevo? Nada. So what's going on here? He says, regular. Okay. So, ¿qué tal is a way to ask somebody how they're doing, because this, I don't know. Oh, hold on 1 minute. I was trying to put my picture here and it didn't work. So I moved it. And I was like, what was I writing there? So, ¿qué tal? You can see he says regular. Regular is right here. Regular is the me face, just meaning like you're doing okay. So, ¿qué tal is how you ask someone how they're doing in an informal way. So, if you're being informal, it's someone you're on a first name basis with, which these guys are, unlike in that other dialogue where we have a Señor Perales who we're not on a first name basis with. We're being informal. So you can say, so regular means you're so. Then y tú. Tú also means you, just like in the other slide, how we had usted. Tú is the informal you singular. So tú is the you informal singular. Because again, we're talking to one person, and that one person, we're being informal with them because we're talking to them. We're on a first name basis with them. So y tú is how you can restate how are you doing without restating it. So y tú means and you. And he said, bien, this is how he's doing. Bien, he's doing well. ¿Qué hay de nuevo? Nada. So like we might say, what's happening? You know, what new is going on? Trying to see. Okay, so ¿qué hay de nuevo? Like what's happening, what's going on? And you could say nada, like nothing's going on. All right. Then we move on to the next one. And again, I'm going to pull up it written out. Again, this is what the page in the book looks like. And here again, you've got señor, señora. So we know we're being formal. So we've got Señor Vargas. He says, this is Señor Vargas and this is Señora Wang. Buenas tardes. Señora Wang, ¿cómo está usted? So here, she's saying, muy bien, y usted, Señor Vargas, bien. We already know, and I'm going to go pull up a picture for muy bien. Okay, pulling my screen down. Okay, so probably shouldn't have myself on here. It gets annoying having to move myself around. But anyway, so Señor Vargas says, buenas tardes, good afternoon, Señora Wang, ¿cómo está usted? Muy bien, gracias. So this is muy bien, gracias. So again, just like in the one before, whoops, I'm going the wrong way. Just like in the one before where we had ¿qué tal? And they're telling how they're doing. That's the same thing here. So, ¿cómo está usted? Is like ¿qué tal? But it's a more formal way of asking someone how they're doing. Another response to that besides bien and regular is muy bien. So you can see the difference. Here's bien, here's muy bien. So this person's doing well, this person's doing super well. Gracias, thank you. Y usted, Señor Vargas. So again, they use the and you, but they use the formal one, and she even threw in his name. He said bien, gracias. And they're being a little bit more polite because they're saying thank you. Like here, he just said bien, whereas here in this more formal setting, they said bien, gracias. Then Señora Wang said, hasta mañana, Señor Vargas. Saludos a la Señora Vargas. Saludos are greetings. So she's saying, you know, salutations, or like say hello to la Señora Vargas. And then Señor Vargas says adios, which is one way of saying goodbye, which means like, you know, God willing. All right, then we have another one, and this is between Berta and Teresa, and it's informal because, again, they're on a first name basis, and this is just a goodbye. So Berta, and I don't know which one's Berta. We'll just say this is Berta and this is Teresa. Berta says hasta luego, Tere, and then Teresa says chao, Berta, nos vemos mañana. So all of these are goodbyes, hasta luego, until later, chao, goodbye, and nos vemos, ver is to see, so nos vemos mañana is like we'll see each other tomorrow. Okay, then we have another dialogue. Here again, we're being informal because they're all on a first name basis. So Carmen says, buenas tardes, me llamo Carmen. So even though you haven't seen these words before, we know she's giving her name because, I mean, we know we're talking about a name because that's what's given, and he also is giving his name. So me llamo Carmen, you can translate it as my name is, but it really means I call myself. Let me see if I can, whoops, where'd it go? Here we go. I call myself Carmen, because this is I call myself Carmen. And so como te llamas tú is how we're going to get the other person's name, but we're still being informal because we're using the tú. So how do you call yourself? And he says, buenas tardes, still being somewhat polite. Good afternoon, me llamo Antonio. I call myself Antonio. Mucho gusto is like encantado, but encantado, think of it more as charmed. So you would make it encantado if you're a guy who's charmed, but if you're a girl, it's encantada. Mucho gusto means kind of like, you know, with pleasure. So it is a way to say like, nice to meet you, but everybody uses mucho gusto, guys and girls alike. It doesn't need to change. El gusto es mío is another way of saying mucho gusto, but what she's saying is like, the pleasure is mine. So he's saying, you know, nice to meet you. And she's like, oh, the pleasure is mine. And then she said, de donde eres, if you remember, which one did that? Was that the first one? No. Maybe, hold on, maybe I didn't go back far enough. Yeah, so when we had Señor Perales, Patricia y Elena, Señor Perales said, de donde es usted? So you see that usted in there? And then in the dialogue we're in now, he said, de donde eres? So remember I told you that the verbs change their spelling dependent upon who the subject is, and that lets you know who's from the United States, or who's happy, or who's sad, or who's running. Okay, so the spelling changed because this is the spelling of, this is from where are you. This are you matches to, because they have different U's, okay? This one over here, this is from where are you. This are matches usted. So it's spelled differently because we're using a different subject pronoun. We're using the formal one. So when we're being formal, we use the es to match the usted. When we're being informal, we use the eres when we're asking where people are from to match the tú. Okay. And then soy de los Estados Unidos de California. That again is I am. So this is are you and I am. So eventually we'll get into subject pronouns and the verbs, and that'll make a little bit more sense. But the reason why there's a little bit of difference between how you're asking where someone is from in this dialogue and the one, no, way back here, sorry. And the one way back here is because you're being formal here and you're being informal in this one right here. Okay. And so then let's go back and double check, make sure we've covered all of that vocabulary. I think I rewrote it out here. So let's look at it here. You were given hola. So there's various greetings. When you greet people, you could say hola, buenos dias, buenas noches. Those are good morning and good evening. There's also buenas tardes, which you saw in the dialogues, which is good afternoon. It's noche and tarde are feminine, so you use buenas. Dia is masculine, so you use buenos. Then there are some farewells that they gave you. Hasta la vista, see you later, hasta pronto. In the dialogues, you also had ciao, hasta mañana, adios, and nos vemos. All of those are just different ways that you can tell somebody goodbye. If you want to ask someone their name and you want to be formal, you use ¿Cómo se llama usted? I'm going to put it there. In the dialogue, they gave you ¿Cómo te llamas? Como te llamas, which is, or como te llamas tú, which is the informal way to ask someone their name. So if you're like in a classroom setting where you're going to be on a first name basis, you would use the informal form. You would say como te llamas. If though you are asking a professor or an elder, you would probably want to, or someone you just don't know that well, you would want to use como se llama usted. Le presento a is how you introduce someone to someone else. Le presento a mi amigo, or le presento a mi hijo, or le presento a mi esposo. El nombre is the name. So when you give your name, a lot of times you use llamarse, like me llamo Jennifer, but el nombre is like on the paper, it might say like nombre, and you would put your name there. Te presento is when maybe, so le presento is when you're in a more formal setting. So maybe you're at work and being introduced to someone. Te presento, you would use like if you're out at a club and one of your friends is introducing you to another one of your friends. ¿Cómo estás? That's an informal way of asking someone how you're doing. You could say no muy bien, which is the opposite of muy bien, which is where we had the big smiling face. This would be big frowny face. ¿Qué pasa? That's like ¿qué tal? What's happening? What's going on? Por favor, please. De nada, no hay de qué are different ways to say you're welcome. Lo siento is I'm sorry. Maybe somebody tells you, you ask someone how they're doing. ¿Cómo estás? And they say no muy bien. You might say lo siento, like in sympathy with them. Gracias, thank you, muchas gracias is thanks a lot, except I have it spelled wrong. Let me fix that. Whoops. Typo. Muchas gracias. We already talked about this, and I think that's about it for your greetings and your vocabulary. And we will just do, trying to move myself out of the way, we will just do some practice in class.